Hello, Milwaukee Bucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Bucks Latest presented by Fan Arch. I'm your host, Dean Simon. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're still very much on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so if you could hit that big red button down below, I would really appreciate it. Also, if you could turn on post notifications so you can stay up to date and in the know with all the latest Milwaukee Bucks updates, I would appreciate that as well. Okay, first thing on the docket is that Grant Hughes of Bleacher Report has basically come out and said that if anybody were to have a breakout campaign for the Milwaukee Bucks in 2025-26, that it's going to be Kevin Porter Jr. And that's not a crazy assumption to make, and I'll get into what he said. So he said, and I quote, "All he has to do is play at the level he established after a trade sent him to the Milwaukee Bucks, and Kevin Porter Jr. will belong in the riser category. It's probably not wise to expect him to match the 19.2 points he put up for the Rockets in 2022-23, but he's going to top the 10.3 he averaged over the course of last season." And you would hope that that's a given that he's going to average more than 10.3 points because in my view, if there were I think there are two choices of players for the Milwaukee Bucks that will have the chance to completely break out and prove that they can mean something to a winning club in Milwaukee, and that is Kevin Porter Jr. or Gary Trent Jr. I feel like it's either of those two, and maybe why not both, could have breakout campaigns and really prove to be a great contributor to a Milwaukee Bucks team that might do unexpectedly well in the Eastern Conference alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo while he's chasing his third MVP award. Maybe KPJ or GTJ in tandem with Giannis can lead the Bucks to a top 4 seed or just any kind of favorable playoff positioning. But in terms of Kevin Porter Jr. specifically, the parts of his game where you would like to see the most improvement in terms of, oh, is he going to really be a candidate to have a breakout year, is his playmaking. We all know how skilled of a scorer he is, how much of just, a skilled offensive creator he is. And we're going to need to see more of that in terms of the passing and playmaking category because with the Bucks, and especially as I've mentioned in previous episodes during the Bucks' short playoff run, KPJ really proved to be a guy that the offense could rely upon to handle certain situations in the pick and roll and get certain guys involved. And if something wasn't there, then the last resort is, of course, him making something happen on his own with his handle and pulling up for a step back mid range jumper. That's kind of the thing that at least I've known him for, known like him to be very adept at in terms of offensive creation, is that when nothing else is going, then he's just going to kind of get into his own bag and make his own move. And that's a very admirable quality, one that you certainly need for a competitive team to go as far as the Bucks want to go with Giannis still in the prime of his career. Like Grant Hughes said, it's unlikely that he'll reach highs of 19.2 points a game like he did for the Houston Rockets, but it's good to know that he has had that experience before and he's been able to reach those highs and that's something that he is capable of. And maybe if push comes to shove and there comes a time where that kind of production is really needed from another guy in the Bucks rotation, specifically in terms of their guards, then Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be a guy that's looked at and will be relied upon to put up that kind of that kind of production. So it's very nice to know that he's done it before, and it's not impossible for him to do it again. And of course, the situations were very different in terms of Houston being a pretty bad team at the time, and KPJ was kind of their only offensive initiator. So that was really that was to his benefit, of course, but there isn't really a guard ahead of Kevin Porter Jr. in the guard rotation for the Bucks so far. So, at least to this current moment, we don't know if Ryan Rollins is going to have some kind of if he's the one that's going to have a breakout year, if Cole Anthony's going to prove that his offense is good enough that he deserves to start. Of course, we don't have these answers yet, but it seems likely that Kevin Porter Jr. is going to keep that starting spot and he's going to prove that he is that guy and that he is the Bucks' consistent option in terms of the starting point guard. And I hope he does have a breakout year next year. So this one is a message that we are pretty familiar with, and it's just from the national media, ESPN specifically, with this update. Basically, the Bucks have already been written off by publications like ESPN and every other kind of major outlet, it seems. It seems as though everybody's out to get Milwaukee, but that's, again, something that Milwaukee Bucks fans have been familiar with for the past couple of years now. And fan side, it's Dalton Sell, who, again, great author. I would love for everybody to go check him out. He's very talented at what he does. He basically came out with an article that covered ESPN's staff predicting that the Bucks will basically drop the furthest out of any NBA team year to year from 24-25 to 25-26. That's so he said that ESPN staff has predicted that the Bucks will have the largest tumble in the NBA in 25-26, earning 41 points in the vote. The Los Angeles Lakers were next at 32. The league's expecting a significant drop-off in Milwaukee, and the Bucks will look to prove them wrong. And again, that's a statement that I feel as though has been said plenty of times, at least in recent years, that, you know, no matter what the national media says, all these different outlets, the Bucks are going to come in with an attitude that they're going to prove people wrong. But it really comes to a point since winning the 2021 title, it's as if they've had to prove everybody wrong overwhelmingly ever since winning the title. It's not like they got a single moment to pause or to take a break or even receive any kind of congratulations. Um, Immediately, it just went to how can we put the Bucks in a position where now they have to respond and they have to feel as though they're at the bottom of the barrel again, which is kind of crazy to think for a team sporting a guy like Giannis. How many times this team will just completely be thrown to the side. And maybe that is a result of the past playoff results, at least the past 2-3 years of being first round exits. Maybe it's solely a product of that and not having to do with any kind of wishful thinking for the next year of what they can be, just going off of what they have been. And of course, the NBA, much like the NFL, is like a what have you done for me lately league. So it's not hard to imagine certain outlets coming out and begging the Bucks to prove them wrong and kind of put them in a spot where they have to come back from some kind of major adversity, or at least that they, I don't know, these different outlets like ESPN, it seems as though they're out to get the Bucks every single year. And perfect transition here going into our next point. Also, another thing that Fansided's Dalton Sell covered is that ESPN has continued this trend of just writing the Bucks off, and now not even just the team but a specific player in general, which is Bobby Portis. um ESPN came out with a poll, essentially a way too early leaderboard or ladder for six man of the year awards, or six man of the year award voting. And as Dalton Sell, he covered and made a whole article about this too. ESPN left off Bobby Portis out of their top five guys that they see that could be able to win the sixth man of the year. They have Alex Caruso from the Thunder, Naz Reid from the Timberwolves, Nikhil Alexander Walker now for the Hawks, Peyton Pritchard possibly going back to back, and even Ty Jerome, even though he made the switch to the Memphis Grizzlies this past offseason. Um, so it's kind of, it bothers me really that a guy like Bobby Portis, who for the past couple of years has been a consensus top three finisher in terms of sixth man of the year voting, that he just does not receive any kind of consideration whatsoever. Even though you could argue that maybe going into next year, that Bobby Portis could have some of the most motivation to capture this award, as he just re-upped with the Bucks on an extension, and that everybody's saying that the Bucks don't have any other kind of scoring help to assist Giannis, and the offense is going to struggle. That Bobby Portis is going to take that a lot on himself and really offer his services to keep the Bucks afloat as an offense, as a collective. You could argue that again, Bobby Portis has all that kind of motivation, not even just from something like ESPN leaving him off a poll of this nature, but just coming in and thinking, man, everybody's been talking about this team in a very negative light, and especially in terms of the offense and where is the offense going to come from outside of Giannis? Why don't I prove to them that it's me, that I am going to be that offensive hub that's really going to keep things rolling when he's off the floor, or when we're sharing the floor, whatever. That would be the biggest motivating factor, I feel like. And this is kind of just a footnote in terms of how Bobby Portis is going to approach the next season, I'm sure. But just having something like this where even like we know that ESPN just has no faith that in either the Bucks as a team or any of the Bucks specific players. It's really intriguing to me how we've gotten to this point where there are guys like Bobby Portis who have been in the running for this award several times over, top 3 finisher for the past 2-3 years, and he still cannot get the recognition that he deserves as a consensus top 3 sixth man of the year vote getter. So now we are going to round out this episode that has been feels like overwhelmingly negative. We're going to round this out with my favorite game of the 2024-25 season. As we enter a new year, I'm sure that there's going to be a game, or at least I hope that there's going to be a game that I enjoy even more than I enjoy this one. But it's when the Bucks came back from the 24-point deficit with a little less than 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter against the Minnesota Timberwolves at home back in April. They went on a 34-3 run in the fourth quarter to bring it all the way back and close out the win. Just the momentum, just everything unfolding as it was in that fourth quarter was absolutely unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Just the fact that the Bucks on that 34-3 run just completely turned off the faucet on the Minnesota Timberwolves for again the final 10 minutes of the game. And this one was especially fun because of the opponent and because there were guys like Nas Reed and Bobby Portis going back and forth. And Dante DiVincenzo was kind of talking hot after hitting a million threes in a row in the second half. And by the way, he finished with 24 points and shot 6 of 10 on threes in that game. He was just absolutely lighting it up. And when the Timberwolves built that 24-point lead, he was a major part of it. He probably I think he hit 3 threes in a row at one point, either in the middle of or late in the third quarter, but that's besides the point. Even through all of that, Giannis had a 23-point triple double. Kevin Porter Jr. had 21, 5, and 4, and he was a major factor in the Bucks putting together that run. And mostly the surprising thing about it, and I'm sure plenty of you remember exactly what I'm talking about, is that he did most of it through his defense, his active hands. Kevin Porter Jr. poked away a couple of really valuable steals that led to fast break buckets of his own or of a teammate's, and it just kept the run going and kept the momentum going. And his defense and his effort in that game was just completely massive. So KPJ at 21, 5, and 4. Bobby Portis had 18 and 10 in a game where he was returning from injury. And another huge part of that game that I feel like goes under the radar is how big AJ Green was and how huge. I think he had 3 threes in total and 9 points, I believe, for the game, but he hit 2 massive threes in the fourth quarter. There was one I want to say that made it from a 6-point game to a 3-point game where he pulled up on the left wing and it was from the parking lot. It was from at least 30 feet. It was maybe like a foot behind the hash mark, and he just let it go with no hesitation on the break, and he drained it, made it a 1 possession game. And then I think there was another 3 from him later on in the fourth quarter in the corner that either tied the game or ended up taking the lead for Milwaukee. So that was just an unbelievable sight to see that the Bucks could put together a again one of the best runs I have ever seen live in any game that I've ever watched. That was just truly unbelievable. Probably the most fun game of the 2024-25 season for the Milwaukee Bucks outside of winning the NBA Cup against the Thunder. So yeah, and I honestly a big part of why I love this game so much is because, I don't mean to say that it's because Dame wasn't playing, but because it kind of gave us an idea of what this team can be because Dame was out and Ryan Rollins got the start. Though he wasn't as impactful as I'm sure he would have liked or that I would have liked. Um, he got the start and like he came out soon after, but it just kind of gave you an idea of what it's like or what it could be like with Kevin Porter Jr. running the show at the point guard position with Ryan Rollins getting crucial minutes in a game like this, especially in a game that became so close in the fourth quarter. So yeah, that was certainly my favorite game of the 2024-25 season, and I hope that there's one in 25-26 that overtakes that one in terms of enjoyment factor alone. But anyways, that'll be it for me today. Thank you very much for watching another episode of Bucks Latest presented by FanArch. Again, I've been Dean Simon. Make sure to like, comment, tell me what you think below, and subscribe. Again, still very much on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So if you hit that big red button, I would really appreciate it. Also, if you could turn on post notifications to stay up to date with recent episodes and stay up to date with all the latest Milwaukee Bucks updates. All right, I will see you guys in the next one. Go Bucks.